So welcome, Chelsea. I just got an email from you, and you were talking about a very interesting side effect you got from a relatively newbie use of the unseen therapist. Can you tell us about it?
Yes. So the very first time that I even tried the personal peace procedure was about 2 weeks ago, and I read the unseen therapist like a day before that.
You mean my book?
Your book.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I read your book like the day before that, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this and see what happens. And one of the things I remembered you talking about was the farther back, a specific event, the farther back seemed to be more successful.
Yeah, like into childhood is better than some recent event, typically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I tried to go back as far as I could of some guilt and shame things that I have. And I tried to go back, and it's kind of funny. Now I'm having a hard time recalling what it was exactly that I was working on.
All right, let me stop you right there, because I got to play teacher here a little bit too. Okay, that is very common when you go back to a specific event and you collapse it well. You can often remember it, but you don't remember it with the same sting, the same intensity, and it's kind of like you don't even remember it. I mean, that happens with some frequency. I'm just pointing that out. So go ahead.
Yeah, so that's kind of what happened. Like now I'm trying to think of like what exactly was I doing. But I do remember that I went back as far as I could. And then I did the peaceful peace procedure. And then like a day later and a couple days later, I noticed the side effect being that I was not even thinking about drinking alcohol. So,
yeah. And prior to that, I think you told me in your email you would drink like, 1 or 2 beers a night or something like that. And you even got to a point where, you were kind of looking forward to it driving home. You know, it was sort of a little bit getting to you.
Yeah.
Craving showing up like the snowball rolling down the hill. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, but
yes. Like when I get home or when I get off work, as I'm driving home, I have about a 10-minute drive and I'd be like, oh, I'm really looking forward to that beer when I get home, you know?
Yeah.
And I would have a beer pretty much every day. Some days I'd have a couple. And probably once a month or something, I would drink more than a couple, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
But it was something that was like always kind of on my mind, like, oh, is it 5 o'clock yet kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it was only for that.
Which is the beginnings, by the way, of some alcoholic behavior, addictive behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I am aware of has always been, I started drinking, the first time I drank, I was 13. And I'm 34 and I've drank my whole life. So it's always been a bit of an issue. After I had kids, I kind of settled down a bit. And so my drinking became daily, but I would only let myself, for the most part, have 1 or 2. But in the past, it was an actual problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. So, but anyway, I noticed that I wasn't having I just didn't even think about it. And a week passed by, I didn't have a single drink.
This is after using the unseen therapist and our personal peace procedure.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Collapsing some shame and guilt specific events.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I just started noticing that I didn't want alcohol. And then I went 1 week and I'm like, man, this is kind of weird, because that's not what I was working on. I wasn't working on my drinking issue per se when I did the unseen, when I did this EFT thing. So it's been really cool. Now it's been 2 weeks and I drank a beer last night, but I didn't even really want it that much, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the point I would like to have listeners understand is this whole side effect issue. What you did was you dealt with some underlying emotional issues, and we all collectively, we've got these, we got buckets full that we collect over our lifetimes, okay? And they go unresolved, little angers, little guilts, little resentments and shames, and it's just stuff, okay? So what you did was you went and you collapsed some of those, and that's what the unseen therapist does so beautifully and so well and so efficiently, to the point where you even have a hard time remembering what they were. Okay. Now, you weren't aiming at the alcohol thing. But the alcohol thing you call a side effect.
Right.
And yes, side effect. I often call it an echo, because what we really did was we collapsed the driver, some emotional drivers, some internal upsets that was driving the need to, have the alcohol from time to time, the beers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This makes sense for you?
Yes.
Okay. So now that same thing occurs in all kinds of issues. I don't care whether the issue is an addiction or some kind of disease, like cancer or multiple sclerosis, or maybe something like even dyslexia. And it goes on and on and on and on. The possibilities here. You collapse the emotional issues, which is we do so well with the unseen therapist. And the echo is that the back pains and the shoulder pains and the stomach disorders and the diseases and the so on, they have less cause, less emotional disturbance, less negativity to feed off of. And as a result, they start to fade. See that all the time, all the time.